is something that we might think of as being not a racial issue, but scientists are seeing now that those who are going to be disproportionately impacted by global warming are people of color. We can look at perhaps a domestic example with Hurricane Katrina. We now know, climatologists now know, that there's a definite relationship between global warming and hurricanes. And in fact, Hurricane Katrina, Rita, and Wilma that struck during that 2005 season were some of the most massive, powerful hurricanes we've ever recorded. And that is a direct result of the waters being warmed up by this global warming phenomenon. And so right here, New Orleans, global warming due to hurricanes. If we look abroad, anytime we have global warming, there's going to be increased drought, which means increased crop failure, which means famine and disease in parts of the world that can ill afford to have their crops fail. They already have food and water shortages, and so global warming results in many cases in severe drought or more extreme droughts in Africa especially, and in places where you have marginal rainfall. And so global warming and its disproportionate impacts upon people of color is an environmental justice issue that is being recognized. And there are actually researchers, some at Howard University, climatologists, that are working on ways to predict the advent of drought cycles so that perhaps we can act proactively to famine instead of reactively in some of these places of the world. And also the energy crisis is a global crisis that is impacting people of color disproportionately, in that we're now turning more to nuclear energy and oil, of course, and we've turned Africa more as a place where we get our oil. And in fact, a lot of us were alarmed at the Gulf oil spill, but those types of spills occur in Nigeria all the time. Maybe not to that magnitude, but close to it. And people in Nigeria and in the Niger River Delta live right next to a lot of the pipelines and the oil refinery facilities. It's even worse than what's happening in Cancer Alley in Louisiana. But we don't even hear about it. And yet, because of our thirst for oil, collectively, we are more dependent upon Nigeria, Gabon, and other places in Africa to exploit those resources. As uranium becomes more and more valuable, as we're trying to turn away from petroleum resources, specifically because of what happened in the Gulf, and the environmental security and all the problems associated with oil, we're turning more towards uranium. Africa is becoming a greater and greater source of uranium, which is a very nasty, dangerous, and hazardous mining process. And so we have a lot of African countries